Hey everyone, my name is Sergey, and welcome to Sellerscale show, where we connect sellers with experts in the Amazon space to help them increase odds of success at the Amazon game. Our guest today is Danny Carlson. He's the founder of Kenji ROI Agency that does Amazon listing optimization and PPC management for Amazon sellers. They have 10 employees and they work with brands who are just launching, as well as those that are selling millions of dollars per year. And one of their prominent clients is Impact Theory. Danny's company has a unique triple optimized Amazon listing strategy, which he'll share with us today. Danny is also the host of Actualized Freedom podcast and the Danny Carlson podcast. Hey, Danny, thanks for being here.
Pleasure to join. I'm pretty much talking on podcasts all day long, whether that's my own two podcasts or other people's podcasts. So I do enjoy talking with interesting people and having great conversations like this.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Now, when an average Amazon seller asks you what your business does, how do you typically respond?
So in the most basic terms, we help sellers increase their conversion rates and Amazon sales through listing optimization and Amazon pay-per-click management. So listing optimization is completely full service. Everything that's on that Amazon listing, we produce that for our clients. That's the product photography, videos, the A+ content descriptions, also known as EBC, and obviously the writing on the page optimized for Amazon SEO.
And for someone who's new to the Amazon game, who's listening right now, and we have a lot of technical terms coming out, can you explain why is it important?
The most important thing to begin with, the text is super important because if you don't have the right words, the right keywords in your listing, in your title, in your description, and everything like that, Amazon's algorithm is going to have no idea what your product is. You can put in your product category, but that's not specific enough, right? Amazon's algorithm wants to know what your product is so it knows what search results for you to show your product up on. And that's just the base level foundation. You can't really have a successful ranking if you don't have the right keywords in there. And you can't convert to a sale if your images are not really good, right? If you have just one image and it's kind of blurry, it doesn't really show your product very well, then it's not going to be very attractive for a customer to purchase that product. And Amazon is a comparison shopping platform. Your product listing has, on average, 27 other products on that listing that Amazon is trying to show to customers in case those are just better products for the customers. So if your photos aren't really nice, it's very easy for a customer to find a better product that they're going to click on and purchase.
Right. And is the strategy behind Amazon listing optimization similar between products and maybe Kindle books, or is it different?
It is definitely similar. I would say that there is a lot more that has to go into a product listing. A Kindle book, you have your cover on there, and that's pretty much all you can optimize for pictures.
Right.
And just having a really good book and pushing good marketing behind it. Kindle publishing is definitely a different game than Amazon FBA. It operates obviously on the same platform and off the same principles, but it's much simpler. Usually people, it's just a very different game with a different set of rules.
Right. Awesome. And before we talk about your strategy, the triple optimized listing, could you briefly explain what the listing optimization entails generally, especially for sellers who are not yet familiar with it or who are new to the Amazon game?
Yeah, so there's a few pieces. I kind of touched on this earlier, the copywriting and keywords, just having the right keywords in the
Right.
listing and having a good description that has the key points of the listing. And we're going to get into that a little bit in my triple optimized Amazon listing methodology. But the text and the keywords is kind of step one. Step number two is all of the product images and having a good mix of different product images that show off the product in a good way. And then those are really the only essential pieces of the Amazon listing optimization. Everything else on top of that is a bonus that is going to increase your conversion rate. So the percentage of customers that actually will purchase your product that end up viewing your product. And that is video is another piece of that. If you have brand registry, you can get a video in one of your image slots at the very top of your listing. And if it's a good video, then we usually see a really good conversion rate increase from that. And the other piece is A+ content descriptions. Other people might have heard this called enhanced brand content, but a year ago or something like that, Amazon just merged A+ content into enhanced brand content. It's essentially the same thing, but it's they call it something different. And that is a fancy description halfway down the listing that you can have images and text instead of just a block of text that's very easy to scroll over and you don't have very many good formatting options. It's just a good chance to basically make it look like your own website and visually show your product in a really attractive way that people that don't have brand registry will not have the opportunity for. So that usually sees a really good conversion rate bump as well.
Right, and for the Amazon seller, who how does an average Amazon seller get the A+ listing, this branded content? Should they apply via Amazon Seller Central? How does it work?
Yeah, so you can apply in Seller Central quite easily. It's going to send you to the brand registry page. So in order to get the brand registry, you do need a registered word trademark on your exact brand name that you're selling those products for. So that's the biggest obstacle. Obviously, it takes some money and, more importantly, time. It can take up to a year to actually go through that process. But I mean, if you're selling a business and you are selling real products that you want to build a real brand around, you probably want to trademark anyways, right? It's definitely worth it. Even if there was no brand registry benefits, it would be worth it to trademark it anyways. And the conversion rate increase you're going to see from having the ability to do everything that brand registry includes is absolutely worth the investment for a trademark.
Right, and if you want to sell your business further on, I mean, it just increases the price and it's more secure, right, from a legal standpoint. Uh,
Absolutely.
Cool, cool. And could you talk to me now about what makes your specific approach unique when compared to some of the stuff that other agencies do? Because I mean, there are a lot of agencies in the market. When people browse through Google and when Amazon sellers want to find an agency, could you just talk briefly about what makes your agency approach unique compared to that?
Yeah, so there's very few agencies that really focus on Amazon listing optimization. There's plenty of agencies that they just kind of tagged it on as just a side service that they do for some of their clients. A lot of them, they just are literally hiring freelancers that every time they get one of these contracts, they'll just pass it off. We are known for Amazon listing optimization as our main service. And we also have everything under one umbrella. So the main benefit of going with us is that you don't have to work with 3, sometimes 4 different companies or contractors to get everything done on a listing. You need video editors, graphic designers, product photographers. Even within product photography, sometimes you need a studio photographer and a lifestyle photographer. You need to hire a model to have everything. You need, there's just so many different team members that need to go into that, and a videographer as well, right? So I say that's probably our biggest differentiators. We're everything
Mhm.
under one roof, and we actually focus mainly on Amazon listing optimization.
Cool. Are you guys decentralized or do you have an office somewhere?
Our main office is in Vancouver, as well as all the photo team and video. So all the videos and everything, the models, everything like that is all located in Vancouver. So we have actually real Canadian models
Mm,
using the products. We consider setting up an office in China or somewhere overseas to cut down costs, but really. If you're selling products in America, you want to have American models and Canadian models
right.
using the products because that's who's going to be buying it. It seems weird if there's like only Chinese people
Right.
using your product. It just seems kind of odd, right? But personally, I live in Bali as well as our operations manager, Phil. He's a British guy who just really likes surfing. And we live out in Bali together. And then there's like graphic designers and things like that work with us in the Philippines. So we are a little bit decentralized.
Cool, man. Cool. Now it seems to me that PPC advertising for just general Amazon seller can get quite technical, but it's not really a rocket science. I mean, you can figure it out watching YouTube videos on your own. Yeah, there seems to be a lot of sellers who mismanage their ads, or they're just write down some copy and just click boost and just plug and play, and they mismanage their ads and waste a lot of money. Why do you think that is? What makes PPC so challenging for Amazon sellers?
Well, really, I think it's a mix of things. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is over optimizing.
Mm,
So, a beginner Amazon seller, typically they will be in there every day, just making some kind of tweaks, looking at the data and like bidding up and down and everything like that. When in reality, what they're doing is creating a mess that they can never track actually what's working and what's not working. If
right.
you're optimizing stuff every single day and changing bids every day, there is no real good way to track if it's working or not, if it's doing you more harm than good. If you do major changes on a weekly basis, you can easily track it. You're like, okay, so we are above our ACOS this week and we lowered the bid by 30%. And then next week we came back and our ACS went down, or next week we came back and our sales just dropped way down. We're not getting impressions for that keyword, so we need to move it back up. Then it becomes you have actually good data to make good decisions. instead of just reacting to whatever happens to show up in your campaign manager dashboard that morning, and then you have no idea what's working, right? Um, and even though Amazon is a relatively simple platform compared to Google Ads or Facebook ads, the complexity grows a lot the more products that you get in there. So, for example, at Kenji ROI, we start off every product with 9 campaigns, 4
Mhm.
automatic campaigns, and 5 manual campaigns of different types. And the number of campaigns grows as we go along with optimization. And if you scale that out to, 5, 10, 15, 25 or more products, that becomes a monumental task to do bid management and keep track of keywords that are not working, add negative keywords and all that kind of stuff. It just becomes a monumental thing to keep track of and make sure that you're not actually wasting that ad spend. Um, it's it's definitely something that can be managed with some very basic rules, but a lot of those times too, those basic rules are not going to work for certain types of products and you need something a little bit more advanced, or maybe you even need to be okay with losing some money in PPC for your category. It really
Mhm,
varies.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, but speaking about that, if I'm creating my first campaign, what should my goal be? Should I strive to break even, or should I be just okay with the losses and think about advertising as an investment to build sales history?
Yeah, I mean, I think, in my opinion, up to break even is completely the good goal to shoot for.
Hmm.
Even in the beginning, the first month or two, in my opinion, I'm okay with losing a little bit of money on ads. Like for us, that's what I would recommend to our clients. Some of our clients say they just need to be a little bit more profitable or they have lower profit margins. So we have to work with that. But I am of the methodology that it's basically an investment for organic ranking for your products. If you are driving sales at up to break even, that's just free extra ranking for your product that will bring more organic sales or keep your ranking for your most important keywords. And if you can get it to a point of profitability and then slowly over time just scale that down and maybe make it profitable or make it even more profitable than it is, then that should be the goal of Amazon advertising. So I prioritize for sure sales volume, build that sales history like you're mentioning,
Right.
and then how cheap can we bring it down without really lowering the overall amount of sales that we're pushing from that. It's definitely
Okay.
a process.
Okay. Okay. Are there brands that do no advertising at all?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's plenty of them out there. And to be honest, like Amazon advertising, sometimes it just doesn't make sense for certain products or certain categories. They just like have a very low conversion rate and they have a very high cost per acquisition. And it's just not really going to be anywhere close to profitable. There's some clients we work
How
with
does the
where we
business?
only do 30% of the products.
Yeah, and how does the business define whether he should be investing in PPC or not to begin with?
I mean, it's really just something that needs to be tested, to be honest. You
Mm,
never really know which ones are going to be that. I mean,
right.
most often they are products that all of their related keywords are way too heavily related to another really high volume item that just dominates all of the keyword search for that item. So like any related keywords you're going to bid on that have any amount of good volume are just going to be super competitive. The customers who are clicking or searching for that are not going to want to click your product because they're looking for something else usually. And then all you're left is with these long tail keywords that have such low search volume. And so that's good, like organically that can trickle in a good amount of sales. But as far as PPC goes, it's just not really going to work profitably at any scale.
And in that case, if I don't do PPC, what are the ways that I can could still continue building my brand on Amazon and generate organic sales?
I mean, with those type of products, typically the ones we see do really well, they are just the best offer in that category. So by default, they can rank pretty easily on page one. Maybe they do a pretty basic kind of promotion to search find buyer, something like that. But
Right.
more often than not, those are the sellers you see that have a very low amount of sophistication with their strategy. And they just kind of by default are the best option that's there.
Right. Right. Cool. Let's say that I'm a seller, which I'm not, by the way. And I haven't been paying much attention to my listings. I just wrote up some copy and never really tried optimizing it much. What's some low-hanging fruit that you see in your experience that a seller like that can start improving things? What should I start paying attention to immediately if I want to improve?
Yeah, I mean, the number one thing that you can do as a seller, the easiest low-hanging fruit, is optimizing your main image. So your
Hmm.
main image is fairly easy to optimize, but it has the biggest effect on your click-through rates. So the percentage of people that will click through from the search results or a competitor's page or a sponsored products ad to your listing. It is the one image that people see and they get to judge your product on it. So
Right.
let's think about this. On a search results page, people are looking at a small amount of information. They're looking at your main image, they're looking at your title, they're looking at the reviews and the price. That's basically what they have access to. There's other exceptions, but you don't have a whole lot of control over your price and your reviews, right? Obviously, you want to be doing things to make that as good as you can, but you can very easily create variants of your main image. So what I recommend doing is getting a professional studio photographer to take at least 3 or 4 different angles of your main image. And if you have multiple pieces of your image, let's say you have a product box and you have one small accessory and a second small accessory and then the main product, get your product photographer to take a picture of all of them separately from a similar angle and then all of them separately from another angle and then place them together in Photoshop later on. So this gives you way more control
Mm.
over the layout. You can layer them in front and behind each other. I don't recommend doing a direct top-down view because that's two-dimensional and doesn't look as good or attractive, and you can't make the items as large. Three-dimensional from about a 15-degree angle allows you to layer things in front and behind each other, making things bigger, making things more attractive generally. But the reason you want to do all of the items separately, especially, is you're just you're just going to be able to do so many different variations with all the same images. You have the same image set, you can rearrange them in 7 different ways and test to see which one's going to do better. If you take them all in one image, just spend all the time arranging it and then take one photo, you can't rearrange anything because, if one item is behind the other item a little bit, then that wasn't in the picture. You can't, if you dragged it out and separated them, then that part of the image would be gone, right? So that's just a really quick, easy way to create many different variations of your main image and then split test them against each other using a software like Splitly or Listing Dojo and see which one gets the best click-through rate.
Cool. Right. So it seems that photography is pretty important. And where can sellers hire photographers online? Should they use Fiverr?
Fiverr, in my opinion, is probably not the best place. It's usually for like more digital jobs. Craigslist, you can find good ones on your local
Mhm.
Craigslist. Kenji ROI, we have an office in Vancouver, so clients often ship their products from China or the United States up to us to go shoot there.
Okay.
Um, Other than that, there's like Facebook groups. So we commonly will post in like the Vancouver photographers and models Facebook group to find models for photo shoots. There's probably a Facebook group for your local city too, as long as you don't live in the middle of the countryside.
Right.
And photographers are always looking for photo gigs. Just make sure specifically that the photographer you're working with is a product photographer.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
when hiring photographers, there are a massive abundance of photographers that like to shoot models. They like to do, lifestyle kind of photos just for fun. There's a millions and millions of those, but there's not that many that do product photography, and it is a very specific skill. At Kenji ROI, we've tried working with a lot of different photographers, and we just found that if they don't know how to do product photography, they can be really good at other photos, and their portfolio maybe looks great, but they just don't know how to do studio lighting for products, right? It's
Right.
a
Right.
very different skill set.
And it's probably the same for video, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like specifically, you want like look at their portfolio. Are they doing product videos? Do they understand what it takes to make a good product video as opposed to like, I don't know, like a music video or some other random types of videos?
Yeah, right, right, right. And like to me, Amazon, and you mentioned this earlier, is essentially a product search engine, right? Do the same rules apply to PPC on Amazon, just to wrap up the PPC topic, as they do on Google or like other advertising platforms?
The same rules. I mean, they operate on a very different set of rules, and the platforms themselves are vastly different. I mean, Google and Amazon are more similar than Facebook and Amazon, just because
Mm-hmm.
Google and Amazon are both search-based platforms. Facebook is an interruption-based platform where you're scrolling on Facebook and
Right, right.
boom, an ad shows up and you're trying to do something else. Whereas Google and Amazon are, I'm putting this ad in front of someone who's searching for the thing that I'm bidding on.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, there is a lot of similarities, and often people who are good at Google Ads can transfer that knowledge and skills over to Amazon, but the platforms operate very differently. You're not going to be using many of the same strategies across both platforms. Um, and unlike Google ads on Amazon, Amazon ads, they take a little bit more time to get the algorithm warmed up to your keywords. If you're a master at Amazon ads, it's very unlikely you can come in and the very first week have some really great results. It's usually you're going to turn on some ads. Some of the campaigns are going to get no impressions for a while until Amazon really trusts your account a little bit more. They trust your campaigns a little bit more. This takes a little more time for the algorithm to figure out what's going on with your product and get things moving.
And how many days on average or weeks should you wait for the Amazon to learn about your account?
I mean, really, the first 2 months is going to be a wild card. Sometimes everything will be figured out pretty good within a week or two, and that's it. The campaigns seem to be working, and Amazon knows where your product is, and your campaigns are getting impressions. Sometimes it takes up to 2 months. It's a little bit of a wild card.
Okay, okay, interesting. And in blogs or in content marketing in general, I mean, the headline, the subtitle, the image mix, this is like the holy trinity of success of a post, right? Um, is it the same when it comes to Amazon? I mean, if a post is underperforming, it must be either your headline, subtitle, image mix. What are the three key things? And we mentioned this earlier, but I just want to make it very simple. What are the three key things that attribute to a successful product listing on Amazon?
I mean, I would definitely say this is getting a little bit more complex, but I have to come back to my triple optimized Amazon listing methodology. And these are
You're
kind of in-depth concepts. The first one being keyword optimization. We touched on that and why that's important. You need to be able to show up in front of the right keyword searches that customers are actually searching for to find your product. Number two is key info optimization. So what that means is identifying what the most important pieces of information a customer needs to know or see about your product in order to make a buying decision, right?
Mhm.
So an example of that real quick would be Bluetooth. Let's say that a brand new version of Bluetooth comes out that is superior to the regular version of Bluetooth. Then shoppers are going to be scanning for, let's call it like Bluetooth X. Let's say that it's called Bluetooth X. And if you don't have Bluetooth X in a very visible part of the first little bit of your title, maybe especially the first couple of images or bullet points and stuff like that, then the customer is probably going to click onto someone else's listing that has made that information more easily accessible, more easily consumable. So identifying what the most important information is and then optimizing your listing to have it most easily communicated to the customer. And step number three is persuasive desire optimization. So that's a mixture between persuasive sales copywriting within the product description and using images and videos and the like to create that desire. So this is all coming down to sales copywriting psychology, basically. The psychology of how do you create that desire in your customers through the persuasive writing and really convincing images. Usually what works the best for images is using models in real lifestyle images, actually using your product in the way that is meant to be used,
Mm.
showing the main benefits of the product actually in action. This is not a model just like holding your product next to their face and staring at the camera. This is having the model using the product and actually in that exact moment they're receiving a main benefit of your product.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And speaking about these three things, what are the most common mistakes that sellers make when using them to optimize their listings?
The most common mistakes, one of the most common ones I see in images especially, is making the text too small. So we always recommend having at least two graphic images with text on them. We include two in our most popular photo package. And most people have the text very difficult to read on a small mobile screen. Even on a desktop screen, the image is only going to show up maybe 4 inches on a laptop screen, unless you click to zoom in even further. And especially on a mobile screen, if you don't click to zoom in so it fills up your entire mobile screen, it's going to show up like an inch and a half big, 2 inches big. And then if you do click so that fills up your whole screen, while we're talking your average smartphone screen, the width of it is as big as it's going to be. And if a customer has to click on it to zoom in and then pinch it again to zoom in even more, you can guarantee that just way less customers are going to read anything that's on there. So you need it to be big enough, which means that the text needs to be pretty concise. It's actually more difficult and more valuable to have really short, concise, kind of bullet point form text on your images because it just takes a long time to really craft that into how can I really clearly and concisely communicate the most key information. This comes back to Number two, key info optimization. And how can I communicate that super effectively to the customer? So don't have too much text on any photos. Make sure that text is large and easily readable on a mobile screen without customers having to pinch and zoom into that text.
Right. And is there any data, by the way, whether more buyers are using mobile phones or laptops to purchase products? Maybe it depends on the category or generally.
Yeah, it definitely does depend on the category. I did see some data on that, but honestly, it's been over a year since I really looked at it.
Okay.
Over the past couple of years, mobile has been on the rise for sure. And you can tell that Amazon is paying attention to which categories are more commonly shopped on mobile by how they optimize the image thumbnails. So you'll notice, for example, in the phone accessories category, all of the image thumbnails are the size of a mobile screen. They're vertical instead of square. In
Hmm.
most categories, the image thumbnails are square, right? So you want to optimize them to be square. But if you're selling mobile accessories, you want to optimize them to be vertical because I mean, Amazon has obviously seen that most people are shopping for mobile accessories on their mobile phone. It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that is something to watch out for. Just if you notice that your product category is like that, then you do want to change the sizing of your images.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. And it seems that there is a whole like learning curve that you have to go through, right? When it comes to listing optimization and PPC management. I'm curious to know at what point will a new seller or an existing seller benefit from outsourcing their product listings to a company like yours? Is it like a function of revenue, maybe a number of product lines or product category?
I mean, it really depends on the situation of the seller, to be honest. So a lot of the smaller sellers that they are really bootstrapped, they don't have a lot of cash, they have more time than they have money, then it doesn't really make sense to work with a company like us. They have a lot of time and they can learn the skills and they can go and spend the time to really craft it themselves, then that's great. But the
Right.
people that usually work with us, even if they're very startup sellers, we work with sellers who they haven't launched their first product yet, but you
Mhm.
know, they've done well with some other job or some other venture and they have money, and what they're short on is time. And it's not only the time of actually doing the photos or writing the listing and everything like that, it's also the time of learning the best practices and that learning how to do it properly, and then actually going and doing it. So that is one thing, and a lot of people are just they don't have the confidence to go do it properly themselves. But the biggest subset of people that we work with are sellers who already are established on Amazon, or they have a fairly large revenue off of Amazon and are then wanting to get onto the Amazon marketplace.
Okay. And what are some of the tools besides the Amazon Ad Console that a seller can use to help them manage their listings if they decide to learn and go on their own, maybe improve photography, find keywords, and write the proper copy for product descriptions?
I'm a big fan of the Helium 10 suite of tools. They've got a whole bunch of different ones for helping you
Yeah,
write a
right.
listing and also keyword optimization and keyword research. I think the Cerebro tool is really useful for doing keyword research. And their Scribbles tool is really useful for writing the listing. And then Frankenstein's a great keyword processor. It's just a really easy way to get thousands and thousands of keywords in there, process out the ones you don't want, and remove duplicates and things like that. So that's a really great resource. There's another good keyword tool. This one's completely free called found.co.uk, and it's good for keyword concatenation for PPC campaigns. So it's really simple. All it's going to do is you can set up like 3, 4, or 5 different columns, and you can split up a long tail keyword by word in all the different columns. And then underneath each one of those words, you just write variants of that word. And then
Mm.
the software will just combine every possible variant of those words together. So that way you can come up with thousands and thousands of keyword variants of the most popular keywords, because tools like Helium 10 are only going to come up with things that it goes back and kind of verifies search volume on Amazon for, which is missing a very large amount of long tail keywords. So the way to really pick up on those golden nugget long tail keywords that a lot of your competitors are not bidding on Amazon PPC is to do something like that. It's keyword concatenation would be kind of the digital marketing term for that.
And what do you think about merchant words? Are they a good tool?
I'm not a big fan of merchant words. So I just saw some really damning evidence that this was a couple of years ago now, but I forget who it was that did this test, but they had a saved keyword search from 1 year ago on a keyword, and they had that open in one window. And then 1 year later, they did the same keyword search on merchant words and then put those two CSV files next to each other. And it was exactly the same data. It was
Oh,
showing
wow.
all of exactly the same, exactly the same. And after that, I just can't really trust it, right? If they're not updating any of their data in 1 year, I really have got to question how the software tool is getting its data.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, in a year, it's a whole new world. I think that there was a lot of valuable info here for Amazon sellers, and I just want to finish up with an ending question that we usually ask. It's a question by Peter Thiel from the book Zero to One. What is your contrarian view that goes against the commonly accepted notions in the industry?
My contrarian view that goes against the common conceptions in the industry. Actually, there is one that I've been talking about recently. Is almost everyone in the Amazon space is just saying you need to diversify off of Amazon and you need to build a Shopify store and
Walmart.
go diversify Walmart, go to all these other places. Um, I don't think that's right for everyone. I think for a specific subset of brands and people, that makes sense. If you have the skill set of running Facebook ads and driving converting traffic, then that makes sense for you and you should do it. If you have no idea how to run profitable Facebook ads for e-commerce products, then do not underestimate that you are starting a second business by setting up a Shopify store and trying to drive profitable Facebook traffic. And a second business that is going to take thousands of dollars in ad spend before you hopefully have figured out a profitable funnel and profitable way to do things if you reach profitability at all. And the amount of time it takes to figure out setting up the Shopify store is the easy part. Actually figuring out how to drive profitable traffic on Facebook for your products is a whole nother ball game. And I've seen a lot of Amazon sellers get really screwed over by just following the guru's advice and spending thousands of dollars on Facebook ads, sometimes $5,000, $10,000, and being incredibly unprofitable in that, paying like 400% ACoS for a sale, and then only to realize that they still don't really know what they're doing with Facebook ads, right?
Yeah.
So while it is definitely, it makes sense, it sounds right, it's not always right for, especially not for beginner sellers that don't have a digital marketing background.
Yeah, and sometimes it just makes sense to zero down and focus like on one platform and build an audience and build the sales history there and become successful on Amazon and maybe then diversify on other platforms, not go in from the start, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and where can people learn more about you and your business? I know that you host 2 podcasts, or is it 3 podcasts? How many?
I have 2 podcasts. So the first one, the listeners of this podcast be interested in would be Actualized Freedom Podcast. That one's all about Amazon FBA. We've had more than 70 episodes with Manny Coates, Kevin King, a lot of really interesting, unique people that have not been on other Amazon FBA podcasts too. It's mostly an interview-based podcast with people who have figured out some interesting marketing strategy or some unique angle when it comes to Amazon FBA. That one's a little bit more advanced than your typical Amazon beginner podcast. So if you're looking for something like that, Actualize Freedom on any of the podcast apps over there. And for people who are more interested in building agencies or just lifestyle optimization, mindset optimization, you can find the Danny Carlson podcast. That one is a newer project of mine. I do mostly for fun and also just talking with other entrepreneurs that I just find personally inspiring. It's kind of my excuse to meet the people that I want to meet in the entrepreneurial world here. So the Danny Carlson podcast is also on any podcasting platforms.
That's amazing. And for business purposes, should people go to your website?
Yeah, and if you're interested in the agency, any of the listing optimization or pay-per-click management services, you can just reach out to the team there at kenjiroi.com. And Phil, he will make sure that you're sorted out. He does free listing optimization videos just to see kind of the holes, what's wrong with your current listings. And if you could benefit from our services, then we'll let you know. If you could not, then we will also let you know. We just like to be very transparent and honest with that.
Amazing. Denny, thanks for being here.
Oh, pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Sergey. And hopefully we'll chat soon.
Yep. Thank you.